of trying to use this little bit of time that you have right now to get
Yeah, it's very similar to the last series. So things we can draw upon there. Today is a heavy individual day. A lot of things that we want to try to do individually and in small groups, and then get up and down over the next couple days, and then figure out obviously who we're playing after Game 7. Working on both game plans simultaneously. Not a ton of commonalities between the way the teams play, but there are things I think we can do to get better. Things we might want to do and use, regardless of who we're playing. So,
just in terms of especially your young guys, the second bite at the apple
Yeah.
for them. Can you notice a difference, or is it different going into this with having last year's experience under their belts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly last year's experience helps a ton, and that's what really this is all about, is like layering these experiences on top of each other so you can draw from them time and again, gain confidence. Last year's second round against Denver was one of the wildest series I've seen in my time in the NBA, just the ebbs and flows of it. This year, second round versus Golden State, particularly once Steph went out, it was just a business-like approach. Really, really liked that. We were the better team. We felt we were the better team. We just had to go out and play like it every night. I thought we accomplished that. I think those are things that we've drawn upon from our previous experiences for sure. Now we just challenge the guys to kind of go back a year, think about how they felt after the Dallas series and the things that were in their mind at that point in time that they needed to do different or felt that they needed to learn from. Try to tap into that now, just individually, to put themselves in the right frame of mind for what it's going to take to keep taking these steps.
When you say you're working on the game plan simultaneously, given the familiarity
Yeah.
you guys have with Denver, do you lean more into maybe prep for OKC because you're so familiar with Denver and their personnel, or do you try to split the time
No,
equally?
we'll split the time equally for sure. This next series is a little bit more standard in that the last two teams that we've played, we hadn't played that version of that team. Going into, we didn't play Lakers with Luka really that much. I mean, we played them I think maybe one time, and we didn't play Golden State with Jimmy. So, this is a little bit more like what we'd seen through the regular season, even though the teams obviously are doing different things and slightly, slight changes here and there as teams evolve. But
Does David Adelman coming in and using different bench players, does that make it more challenging?
yeah, he's definitely done some things that are different, and just I think around the margins, some things I think that they've really benefited from. But fundamentally, the way that they play stylistically, where the threats are, et cetera, that's all remains the same. So.
Chris, last year this time Mike was really laboring with
Yeah.
that injury. Do you just have a little bit more option with him going into this one, or did you have to be wary of what he was going through last year?
Well, all year long it was a priority to try to manage Mike proactively better. I thought last year, he rolled his ankle, I think was the primary reason, but I'm sure over time, the minutes he played a lot heavier minutes coming down the stretch and into the playoffs. We're still managing through the playoffs. I still try to, keep as many minutes in the tank for him as I possibly can, whether it be in the game or in the series. So, and he's seemingly kind of rolled with that. Maybe every night it's been a little bit different, like when he goes in, when he comes out. It never seems to bother him, so that's a benefit there.
Is that hard to do? Just
Well,
doing what he?
Yeah, it might be hard. I mean, it might be hard for most players, but I think Mike is just kind of, takes everything as it comes. Like in the Lakers series, I took him out after 4 minutes because I wanted to get to a certain rotation, and then he would sit for a long time, and then he would play maybe the start of the second. Now we take him out more around the traditional time. We don't always go back with him. We kind of feel out what the game's needed right then and there. Understanding in the first half, I'd like to try to save some minutes if I can, so we can use them however we need to in the second half. So But he always stays ready and seemingly always finds a way to contribute when he's called upon. So.
What's it like to work with a GM, the president of basketball operations, whatever the title is, who is that willing to make bold moves that might not be well received immediately?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the hallmarks of all the great GMs or front office leaders is that they're not afraid to make moves, whether it be go out and acquire talent, upgrade the roster continually, or the other side of it is move on from mistakes when they've been made. I think Tim has got a great feel for the game. He has a great feel for what team needs. I take it as a compliment that he has confidence in us to be able to figure it out along the way. And we've got a pretty good flexibility, pretty good, characteristic of flexibility through the roster in the way guys can play, play with a number of different types of players. So that makes it a little bit more seamless too. But yeah, it's also fun. It keeps it fun and exciting in terms of being able to try and figure out how to reinvent yourself.
Chris, the tone for me after Game 5 was we haven't done anything yet.
Right.
How much has that kind of bled over to the rest of the team in a different tone? I mean, I know last year Game 7 after isolation, after the way you won in Game 7 against the Nuggets, but how is it different with this tone?
Yeah, I think it's exactly the mindset that we need right now. I mean, we made a big deal of challenging these guys from day one of getting back to this point in time, but that is not as an accomplishment unto itself. It's more about a validation of who we are as a program and who we want to continue to be, and what it takes and the level of focus and determination just to get to this point, and we're only halfway from our ultimate goal. So, but again, these are the cumulative experiences that you learn when you go through this time and time again, and I think that's where the league is right now. Like, we haven't seen back-to-back champions in a number of years. I think it's just about putting yourself in a position to take as many bites at the apple as you possibly can get.
With Ant, his previous playoffs, are kind of marked by these big scoring performances,
Yeah.
30 plus, 40 plus
Yeah.
nights. Closeout game, he has 12 assists.
Yes.
It's same thing in the Lakers series,
Yeah.
where his playmaking, his patience, maybe
Yeah.
was a big part of it. How have you seen him just overall approach these two series that's maybe different from the previous three?
I think
postseasons
he's been, first of all, outstanding. I think he's set the tone for the most part, coming into a series, understanding like how they were going to guard him, and then he just kind of moves with the series, and some of those big numbers assist wise and closeout games because he's forced them to change the way that they've guarded him. And then when they do that, he realizes how that's going to benefit others or how that might open up things for himself differently. So he's stayed patient. He's played the long game, but yet he's still been aggressive. He's found ways and opportunities in the game to do what he normally does, which is kind of put a run together and take over the game.
Kind of along the same pace to Julius. I mean, sometimes the ball will get out of his hands really fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes he absorbs a double team.
Right.
How have you noticed about his patience and playmaking skills as well in these series?
Yeah, well, he's been huge. I mean, he's hit a lot of timely baskets for us, whether they be in the flow or in ISOs where we're giving him the ball. He's still maintained his playmaking. I thought he's really kind of picking all the right options right now, for sure. A lot of times he'll have matchup advantages, and he uses that for himself and to draw for his teammates. And those two guys are really playing well, like off each other in the flow. Like, it's not that they have this incredible two-man game like a Jokic Murray, but they really understand the rhythm of how each other are playing, and they're like not in each other's way, but they're really kind of, and it's not take turn either, but it's just kind of this seamless flow that they're both playing off of, and that's fun to watch.
How does Ant's personality affect this team?
I mean, he makes it fun. He makes it interesting, and he always believes that we're going to have a chance. He just believes that he's got incredible confidence, and that confidence is fused through his teammates. And he's become a truth teller. As part of his leadership, he's not afraid to say what needs to be said in the moment, whether it's encouraging or whether it's more of get on his teammates, etc. Or, so his leadership dynamics are kind of, which we've seen all season, are kind of really kind of crystallizing right now. So. Thanks, guys. Yep.
Get banged up here and there, just kind of mend that a little bit, and but still like keep your mind on the work. I think guys came in today. We didn't really do much as a whole, as a group, but individually we had a lot of guys in here getting a lot of individual work in, and just keeping your wind together, your mind together, and just understanding that we got a lot more work to do.
How much different do you feel physically going into this conference finals versus last year?
I was probably a complete 180 from last year, honestly. So just thankful to get to this point where, we're walking into the Western Conference Finals healthy. Everything's in front of us. I feel good. The team feels good, and just having a great opportunity.
Like you guys hit a lot of maybe like regular season demons, clutch time, whatever. It seems like you've resolved largely in the playoffs thus far. Turnovers have still been high. How would you assess kind of ball control thus far in the playoffs?
It's still something we need to improve on. We talked about it today in our meeting, just valuing the basketball and not, giving the ball away. There's times where we, guys are trying to make the right reads and make plays, but there's times where we just, a lack of, train of thought for that particular possession. We just throw it, off our foot or dribble off our knee, or just something that's 2-on-1 fast break where we should finish those. Those are the type of situations we need to cut down on, and we just can't have, especially as you go forward. The teams you're playing against now are going to, very few flaws, left in the teams that are still out there. So we got to be locked in on that.
This might be a stupid question, but like in football, right? If you're turning the ball over a lot, like maybe you're not going to pass as much. You're going to run the ball. Like, are there ways in basketball to have maybe like a more conservative offensive game plan, knowing you're playing an opponent that generates a lot of turnovers?
It's a little tougher. Just try to get the ball in the hands of the people who take care of it the best. This is probably the in football, you got a good quarterback who can do it, without turning it over. You can throw it still. You can make the right reads. You have a running back that controls the tempo. You do that. And a good offensive line, stuff like that. Like we have Julius in the post. We have, his post-up game is elite, and we can play through that and not have to worry about the pressure from the outside three-point line and bring the ball up as much. And so there's different avenues, but we just have to, overall as a team, when we push the tempo and we do get opportunities, we have to figure out, from everybody to cut those down.
While I'm sure you aren't going to express a preference, would facing Denver streamline your preparation just because you've had so many big games against them lately?
Yeah, I mean, we're so familiar with each other right now, so it would we'd obviously have to go through whatever our game plan is going to be for them particularly, but we know each other so well that there'll be a lot of carryover until you start those first adjustments.
Like, so many of your teammates have kind of gone out of their way to say how much they appreciate having you around and how much they want to win for you.
They don't tell me that.
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you process
That's what we're here
that?
for.
Do you even hear any of it, I guess, and how do you process that, kind of the admiration?
It's good to hear from you guys.
We're here for you.
Thank you. No, that's pretty cool. And I think I know they respect me, and they I wouldn't say they admire me at all, but they listen to me. They really want my advice for a lot of things, and they appreciate me being around and just being truthfully just all in on what they about them. It's not about me at all. I want them to succeed. I want them to make a lot of money. I want them to have achieve all their goals and win championships, and that's it. And they realize that's who I am. It's not fake or anything. So that's cool to hear from you guys.
How do you analyze Tim Conley? I mean, you've been around the league, you've seen a lot of executives. How do you analyze Tim Conley, his management style, and his willingness to make trades that at the moment might not be popular?
He's awesome, man. He has a great vision. I think a lot of things that he does, he's so intentional about what he does and who he puts together and the groups he puts together. He's super big on your character, big on your personality. All those things are important for your fit around the team and organization, and he does a really good job of just pulling those guys together, even if it's not a popular decision at the time. He has a great vision for that.
Mike, have you seen, what are maybe some of the differences that you've seen Ant approach these playoffs as opposed to the last two that you played with them, both off the court and on the court?
One off the court, I think the way he's really taking care of himself, just his body. I think he would tell you he got to the West Conference Finals last year and he was burning himself out a little bit. He was a little bit tired and running in the mud, and I think he's done a great job with his conditioning and just being able to handle what we expect from him on both ends of the floor on a nightly basis. His leadership, is being vocal in practices, being vocal in the huddles and timeouts, and all that stuff. He's just taking more responsibility and taking the reins a little bit more. And it just seems like Western Conference Finals, it's not enough. He wants to keep pushing it and wants to win a championship. So that mindset you can kind of feel throughout the playoffs.
If it does end up being Denver, be the third year in a row you guys cement. You talked about the familiarity, but we don't really see it too much anymore in the league. In the past, we'd see teams collide. Would it feel like a rivalry at that point? Would you call it a rivalry at that point if you meet 3 years in a row in the playoffs?
That's about as close as a rivalry as you can get. Play a team that many times, and you have different results in both series, and so yeah, I mean we're tired of seeing them. We don't necessarily want to see them, but we'll be ready for whoever we get.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you guys talk so much about understanding the moment now too, particularly after going through what you did last year. How ready do you feel this group is to kind of put that past and just elevate it to the next level?
I think this team is like super antsy for this opportunity. It was something that you look back, we remember how we felt after the elimination of Dallas and being in our home court. Team celebrating, like all that stuff is like it's just etched in your memory. And you're like, man, I can't wait to get back here. And lo and behold, we're right back in the situation, and now it's right in front of us. What are we gonna do different? How are we gonna approach the game one different? Like we know how important each possession is. We're gonna have a bunch of big plays, but the small ones are gonna make the difference for us. And I think our guys learned that last year, and hopefully that carries over into a good start to the series.
We only get to see Ant in small snippets. Can you kind of describe what he's like to be around constantly?
He's exactly what you see, on the television. He's alive. He's talking. He's getting on people. He's competitive. I mean, he's in there playing one-on-one right now, probably with like 4 or 5 different guys. Like it's nonstop, and he's just fun to be around. He's loud. He's animated, and that just keeps our energy, at a good place. It always, it's just a good vibe in the locker room and in practices.
Do you have any good funny Ant stories, by chance, or moments?
I can't tell. No, I'm about to say I can't. Nope. Nope.
Worth a try.
Nope.
Thank you.